And I think we'll get started with the meeting. So I'll call on Andy Beaton to present the sky this month.
Okay, here we are again. It looks like we're finally going to get into decent weather this time of the year. Pity the sun sets so late, but we'll take what we can get. We've got on this night the big picture, planets, the moon, globular clusters, comets and meteors, variable stars. Is Blake here? Yep, okay, got a treat for Blake. And spaceflight highlights. So the big picture, here we are at night, just after twilight. What we have looking west, we've got, oh, can we see? No, we can't see the pointer on the screen there. Let's try, oh, there we go. Got Venus setting just after twilight. Other than that, we don't have a lot of interesting, exciting stuff going on in the western sky. We do have the dwarf planet Ceres showing up in Leo there. We've got the moon. This is halfway through the month, getting close to the full moon. Morning is much more interesting. In the morning, we have a nice parade of planets: Saturn, Pluto. Yes, I know. Mars, Neptune, and Uranus is kind of buried somewhere down here. We also get everybody's favorite summer constellations coming up. We've got Scorpius here, we've got Sagittarius coming up. So if you can stay up late, you're going to see all your favorite Milky Way objects. And all the usual good summer stuff is coming up all through Ophiuchus, Aquila, Cygnus, and so on. Nights are getting too short. This is the bad part of this time of the year. It's almost 11 o'clock before it gets dark enough to really do anything. At twilight starts at 3:10. By the end of the month before the next meeting, it's 20 after 11 before things get dark, and 2:40 in the morning when they start getting too light to do any useful observing. So it's a good time to be looking for the moon, for planets, for stuff that doesn't require serious deep sky observing. Important dates coming up. June 13th is the new moon. We're getting close to the summer solstice, just a couple days after the next members' night. On June 2nd, we have the moon at apogee and perigee at June 15th. The reason I put it in there is there's really not much exciting in the way of key dates going on this month. So if you have a hankering to try a new project, try taking pictures of the moon at these two dates and comparing the size, which should have some interesting results. Mid-May to late June is blackfly season. If you're going to be up in Collingwood or Algonquin or anywhere, be prepared. It's a nasty time to be out in the woods. And just after the next meeting, we have the RASC General Assembly in Calgary. If I told you about it next month, you wouldn't have enough time to get your tickets to prepare, so here's some advance warning. The General Assemblies are worth going to. I'm not going to it myself unless I find a lot of money on the couch cushion the next few weeks, but I strongly recommend people do go. So we have the moon, as always, full moon on May 29th, last quarter on the 6th, new moon on June 13th, and the first quarter is on June 20th, early in the morning, so it's actually technically before the next members' meeting, so it comes in under my schedule here. Later on June 20th, we have the next opportunity to see the Lunar X. I'm guessing at this point everybody here knows what the Lunar X is. If you don't, here's a picture of it I saved from last time. And it's this X-shaped feature where we've got the sunlight coming in on a certain angle that makes an X appear out of some crater walls. It's a cool thing to look for. So we have planets coming up, as always. After mid-June, the Planet Mercury should be appearing in the evening sky. By June 16th, it gets at its highest. It's not a really great opportunity for us to view it. The angle is not very good, but it will be there. You cannot miss Venus. It's insanely bright and really obvious. If you have a look at it through a telescope or even a fairly powerful pair of binoculars, you'll be able to see it actually has a phase right now. It's a gibbous Venus. As the month goes on, it's growing closer to a full Venus, and it's also getting closer to us, so it gets bigger and brighter the longer we wait. It's also going to be passing 2 degrees north of the moon on June 16th, so if you've got a wide-angle telescope or a telephoto lens with about that field of view on your camera, it's going to be a very nice photo opportunity. You should be able to get matching phases on there as well. So the morning planets, so you saw a brief glimpse of them in the big picture. Wake up early, if you're the kind of person who gets up early. You get a parade of Saturn, Mars, Neptune, and Uranus. It's a really good time to be looking at Saturn right now because the rings are wide open. It looks quite spectacular. Mars is not very big, but it is close to full. I don't know how much detail you'll be able to see. June 19th is when Neptune starts going retrograde. It turns around and goes backwards in the sky. If you have an interest in a minor observing project, record its positions over the nights before and after June 19th and see if you can actually track it as it turns around from the Earth's point of view. On June 1st, the moon will be passing by Saturn. On June 3rd, it'll be passing by Mars. Both of those should be interesting photo opportunities. Not quite as easy to manage as with Venus because neither of those planets are nearly as bright, but it should be worth making an attempt. Uranus will be showing up in the very late dawn or just before twilight. If you have a very low eastern horizon, you should be able to see it if you try. If you live in the city and you've got houses and trees around you, you're going to have to wait. Sadly, the ecliptic is fairly low in the sky from our point of view at looking to these planets. So none of them are going to be very high in the sky. It's not going to be a great opportunity for detailed imaging unless you happen to be traveling further south, somewhere south of the Tropic of Cancer where you can look overhead and see the planets there. The other planets, Jupiter, Pluto, and Ceres, yes, I'm calling them all planets. Jupiter is the obvious one. It's the best thing to look at in the sky if you've got kids or people who don't really know what they're looking for and want to see something spectacular. It's not too far south. You'll be able to see good detail. There have been reports that the Great Red Spot is fading and growing weaker. If you have an interest in taking detailed observations of the Great Red Spot between now and probably the rest of the year, you could be gathering some very useful scientific information. Now, everybody knows the regular 4 Jovian moons, but if you're looking for something a bit more challenging, there's always more moons to go looking for. Himalaya is 14th magnitude, and if you've got, say, something like a 8, a 10, or a 12-inch telescope, it might be a target worth looking for. Amalthea is about the same brightness, but it's much closer to Jupiter and much easier to lose in the glare of the planet. Pluto is in Sagittarius, which makes it a really tough find among all the stars. Best way to find it is probably to take pictures on multiple successive nights and look for that moving object. I don't know if it would be feasible to actually look for it with the naked eye. Ceres is in the constellation Leo, about 7.5 magnitude. and it is just booting along through the sky. So if you have an interest in doing an asteroid tracking project, this would be a good one to work on. It's bright and it's fast. It's always a good time to look for stuff in the deep sky. This is a really good time of the year to go looking for globular clusters. The bright ones visible just about overhead for us are in Hercules, Botes, Serpens Caput, and Ophiuchus. All of them are pretty good urban targets. They're pretty bright, they're pretty concentrated, and because they're made of stars, they're good at getting through the sky glow. I really like globular clusters as targets to be showing people when they're looking through the telescope. I think that they actually look better to the eye than they do in the camera. I think with cameras it's far too easy for the cores to get washed out and burned out, but with the naked eye, and a decent telescope, you can actually resolve stars all the way through. And that's always spectacular. My favorite late spring deep sky object is actually not a globular cluster, it's the Ring Nebula. Anybody who's done any serious observing knows it very well. They've seen it too many times. Almost any telescope will find it, but there's some stuff there that can make it a bit more interesting. Trying to spot the central star, it's a 15.8 magnitude, which is not an easy reach for anything less than probably a 12 or a 14-inch telescope. If you're interested in photography, taking long exposure photos will actually reveal material around the famous ring shape. It's all hydrogen alpha stuff, so if you have your hydrogen alpha filter and patience, you can get a pretty good image of all the material around it. This is my favorite image of M57 because the person who took it was me. And it's not a very good image because I was experimenting with a cheap astro camera, and I wasn't as concerned with alignment or focusing as I should have been, but I'm throwing it in here because you can see the 15th magnitude star in the center there. And that's achievable by just about any amateur in the photography department, because I could do it, and this was probably my third or fourth attempt to take a picture. Comets and meteors, meteor showers, they're pretty lame this month. Both are in the daylight, both have hardly any meteors. If you're traveling and you're on the other side of the world, it might be worth having a look. Or I guess if you're the kind of person who has a radio telescope or even a shortwave radio receiver and you want to try and pick up the sound of radio stations being echoed off the trails they leave, it might be worth a try, but I wouldn't put too much effort into it. We have one decent comet in the sky right now, 2016 M1 Pan-STARRS. It's about 10th magnitude. It's in Sagittarius right now. They're predicting a maximum of 9.6 on June 28th, but it's a comet. It could be anywhere from 8 to 14th magnitude on that day. Worth giving it a look, but it's not going to be the greatest comet of our lifetime. So obviously I'm not going to do the sky this month without throwing in a variable star. Our Coronae Borealis is the interesting one this time. What kind of variable star is it? It's an R Coronae Borealis star. It is the type that the entire genre is named after. Right now it's about 6th magnitude. If you take a look at the constellation Coronae Borealis, and it kind of looks circular, it's a 6th magnitude star inside that circle. Now, for reasons nobody fully understands, every now and then it drops down to 14th magnitude or even lower. probably due to carbon dust condensing in the atmosphere. It's basically made of nothing but helium and carbon at this point. All the hydrogen is burnt out. So it's still not entirely well understood. So any data that you feel like gathering, it's going to be useful scientific data. So I would recommend going out and taking a look. If you've got a pair of binoculars, it'll be easy to see it when it's 6th magnitude. When it's 14th magnitude, it'll be a bit harder, but I'm sure there are plenty of people here with the equipment necessary. Now, I'm also going to throw in a plea for an observing campaign. This has been going on for a few months. AG Draconis is a cataclysmic variable that has weird, unpredictable outbursts, and it's going through an outburst right now. It's getting close to the end. But astronomers from the Pavel Josef Savarek University in Slovakia are currently studying it and have put out a plea for astronomers around the world to gather as much data on this star as possible. And the people who gather that data are you and I. So if you have a chance to record this star, this will be actual useful scientific data that is immediately wanted, not just something that's going to sit in a database for 10 years until someone gets around to it. For Blake, I've got a double star. I remember it this time. I didn't know whether to pick something obvious so the younger observers could get a chance to go out and see something, or look for something really nitty-gritty difficult for the experienced observers to go at. So I picked this one, Coronae, also Alpha Canum Venicatorum. When you're looking at it, it's actually it's a very attractive, easy to find bright star. If you take a look at, say, the Big Dipper and take a look at the handle stars and imagine they're part of an arc of a circle, then Coronae is pretty much around the center of the circle, and it's bright and hard to miss. You can see there is a difference between the colors. The brighter star is bluer than the secondary star. Everyone says it's green. It looks white to me. But the important thing is the primary star is actually slightly variable. It varies by about 1/10 of a magnitude, which means it's not going to be easy to do for an observation with your eye, but if you have a photometer, and when I say a photometer, I also mean a CCD camera or even an SLR camera, you can actually take fairly accurate photometric measurements of brightnesses of stars, and this is an eligible target. If you want to record it moving around the orbit, the period's around 7,900 years. So you're probably not going to see too much action there. But if you start now, and we perfect the technology of putting our brains in robots, we might be able to do something with that. So coming up in spaceflight, June 6th, we have a crewed Soyuz ship going to the ISS. June 14th, we're trying an air-launched Pegasus rocket with NASA's Ionospheric Connection Explorer. Rocket Lab is trying their third Electron rocket launch in an as yet unspecified date. The Chinese are launching a couple of Long March rockets, and Falcon rocket launches are really getting to the point where they're commonplace. From now until June 9th, ISS passes all through the night. We're at the right angle that no matter when it passes overhead, it'll be in daylight. Now, I'm not sure about this. Last time I was looking at it, I had a pair of 10 power binoculars, and I leaned it up against a post. And I could convince myself that I actually saw a squarish kind of shape when I was looking at the ISS. And I don't know whether that's my imagination at work or whether it was really there. But I'd be curious to know if other people have attempted the same thing and if they've ever seen anything looking like a shape in the ISS with that. As usual, heavensabove.com gives you time and locations for seeing the ISS go by. And I guess the other news for spaceflight is the James Webb Telescope has been delayed again. They've had problems with the sunshade getting tangled up while it tries to unfurl. So hopefully that's not going to endanger the mission, but it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on and find out what happens. And that's it. Thanks very much.